Hello once again, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of AIW's The Card is Going to Change. Before we get into this week's episode, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors that help us bring the show to you for free each and every week on whichever platform you choose to listen. Thanks to Angelo's Pizza. While we're all stuck here in isolation, you can't go to Angelo's Pizza and sit down and enjoy their wonderful full menu, but you can order it for takeout or delivery, so make sure you look up and check out Angelo's on Madison Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio. Thanks to Pollyanna DIY, we've got plenty of enamel pins to sell from Pollyanna DIY through AIW. I'm sure that John Thorne will tell you about that later, but then make sure you check out Pollyanna DIY for all of their other custom merchandise and things that they do there. And of course, thanks to our streaming partners, the merger of SmartMark Video and IndependentWrestling.tv has never made viewing AIW easier, so make sure you check out all the past DVDs at smartmarkvideo.com. You can also get MP4s there as well, or sign up at IWTV using the code ABSOLUTE and get yourself a 5-day free trial. Watch AIW along with all sorts of other independent wrestling promotions. And with that, we bring you into this week's episode. We are joined by John Thorne, your AIW owner, as always.
Hello.
My name is Steve Guy, your moderator of sorts, and on this week's episode, we have a very special guest, a man of many monikers, Mr. Lariats and Lightbeard, King of Big Dog Style.
Come on, ring announce it, dude. You're not going to get to do it for a while. You're not going to get to do it for a while. You got that fancy setup. You might as well,
Yeah.
You're singing fucking Disney songs online. You can do a real ring announce gig right now.
The Southern Psychopath, Old Mancer, Mr. Second Gear himself, Mance Warner. Welcome.
Steve, you're pretty good at this, man. You're pretty good at doing this. I sat here and just listened. I went, God, he plugged everything. He got everything over. And then he got to my name and he just took a sweet time and he wasn't going to commit all the way to it. Come on.
It's that muscle memory from doing the intro so many times. You could do it without thinking about it.
Then he got to my name and he said, I don't know. I'm going to phone it in right here. I'm not too concerned.
You know, with yours, my trick is, as we listen to you crack open a beer, what do you got over there, Mancer? Natty Light?
Yes, they had them on sale at Dollar General, so I got a big old
I didn't even. They sell beer. I thought you're betraying Aldi's, huh?
Well, at Aldi's, all they got is the you get like 6-packs. You can't get no big old crates of beer though.
Yeah, they only got like IPA beers at the Aldi's by me.
Yeah, I don't like that shit, man.
What's a 24-pack of Natty run you at the dollar store?
Well, I want to say 15 was like $8. So let's say multiply that by 2 and then take out like $3 and then carry a 1, add in a 0.50 cent and then mix them all together somewhere around there.
That's the Dollar General formula, huh?
Yeah, how about that?
You know how Walmart does the 0.67 or something like that? You just mix it all together.
Yes. So with your intro, my trick is that I look at your Twitter before the show, because you always have it posted on there. You have that, it's your posted tweet or whatever.
Pinned tweet?
Your pinned tweet. There you go. Thanks, John. And I look at it at least once or twice just to commit it to memory again in my head, and I say it again. And that's also why I write note cards every single show, is because it's, again, committing it in memory. And I haven't done either one of those things in so long, but had we been in show form, I'm sure I would have nailed it. Sorry.
See, and that pinned tweet on there, that ain't on Mancer. That's Nick Maniwal from IWA. He told me to put it up there because he would get offended when ring announcers wouldn't say it in the right order, and he'd get all pissed off, so he had me pin it on there so people could remember it. But I need to edit it because it says I weigh 187 because I did at one point, now I'm like 217 because I drink a whole lot and I like cheeseburgers. So
see, I don't even do weights anymore because guys are. It's weird that so many guys are self-conscious about.
You get those 3/4 pound guys, like in 3/4 pounds. Chris Candido intros.
I feel bad when guys want to do stuff like that. I'm like, all right, we'll do weight for that match, but a lot of guys don't want to do it. Mancer, you want the whole thing here, buddy?
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go. ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by none other than the king of big dog style, the eye poke god, the mouth of the Mid-South, the medium-sized man beast, Lariats and light beers, Mr. Second Gear himself, Macho Mancer, the southern psychopath, old Mancer, Mance Warner.
And that's when I hit my pose, and I just stay there for a little bit, like Psycho Sid, and you just wait and wait and wait till they're with you, baby.
You do those long stride lunges and
you make them wait for it, huh?
I needed that, man. I've been walking around out here just practicing my entrance for that big old, one time we go back for a show. I've just been waiting all day.
Let's get into this. Your introduction to AIW to the AIW crowd was as a lumberjack in the Swoggle versus Britt Baker Absolution 12 match. And people were excited that you were there. And I think that's ultimately what then the next step
Mike
was.
vs. Philly on Twitter was he picked you out of a crowd.
I remember I knew I was in when I walked out and the crowd popped and I went, I hope I get booked now.
And then you
knows who I am.
And then you get booked at the Music Links or Tequila Jack show.
Well, before we get into that, like it's kind of crazy. The Mance Warner of 2017 and the Mance Warner of 2020 are two kind of different animals right now, so to speak. What leads you to even start showing up in 2017?
Well, for me, the thing that I always tell the young dudes too, I feel weird saying that, but because I've been wrestling too long or nothing, but the thing for me is when I got into wrestling, I studied everything. So you know all the companies and you know all the places, and this was the one I wanted to go to because I worked at that other place. I can't remember the name of the damn place. Peace. I can't remember what it was called, but I was out there like 2 times, and it was down there at the old building that y'all used to run. And my goal was, to go to this company. So it was like, well, I'm going to show up and bust my ass and get my name out there, and then hopefully that gets me go take a crack at it and see what happens. But I think a lot of guys nowadays don't study everything, so they don't know all the companies that are out there. Like when I started going to IWA Midsouth, it was a thing of like, okay, this is a place that if you go here and you could get over here and you could work in front of 8 motherfuckers in a crowd, you could work in front of anybody.
How many times did you show up to AIW before that lumberjack?
I want to say maybe I think 2 times, something like that. I would just show up and help out.
Yeah, I remember you were doing ring crew. Yeah.
Yeah, set up, tear down, and then just because that's the thing too. If you're there, like I tell guys, like Levi, perfect example. If you're there and the boys and everybody sees that you're busting ass and you want it, then you're gonna get a chance at it. Versus the guys that just tweet out, "Hey, book me here," So
how far into wrestling were you at that point?
I got to do some math now. So I would have started in 2016 was like the first year I was in. So that would have been what, second year, going into second year.
Okay, yeah. So not too long then, yeah.
Yeah, because I started IWA Mid-South maybe 3 months into wrestling, 4 months into wrestling. And I would go there every week. I'd be there Thursday, and then they had shows on Saturday. Sometimes they do a Sunday thing, and I would just go at every show. You set up, and when they were back at Jammers, you'd have to set that goddamn ring up and then tear it down and then put it in that corner. And you do that every week, and get your ass kicked, and you got to earn shit. Nothing's given to you. So I remember Ian Rotten I'd walk through the curtain, go to the ring, and then I would see Ian talking to the guys that are say it's a 4-way match. And I would see Ian stopping guys before they get in the ring. And then come to find out, Ian was telling them, make him fight you. Whoop his ass so he brings it back. So then I learned quickly, you learn after a couple of weeks, like, all right, these dudes are trying to beat the shit out of me. And then that's kind of where the Southern Psycho comes from. Then you start hitting motherfuckers, and then, so once you get over there, you kind of got to get your ass whooped a couple times.
So, what you said was pretty interesting, that you studied everything. So many guys today do not study a fucking thing. They have no concept or no just idea of what independent wrestling was. Were you a guy that was going to shows and you were pretty knowledgeable and aware of what was going on before you got involved?
I did a lot of on the old what the hell was that website called? There was a website where it had a yellow background and everything was in blue. All the words were in blue, and you get on there and buy DVDs or VHSs for like $4 or $2.
Oh, so Crazy Max maybe or something?
I think that might have been it. Yeah, I'd get on there and I'd order shit all the time. So I'd have all kinds of bootleg DVDs and VHS tapes, and I just found them recently. I got them in a blue like Walmart case thing with all the old DVDs and shit in there. So I would sit there on the weekend, during the week, whatever it was, and I'd just watch it. And then when you start training, you know, for me, that's the only way you're going to make it, is if you're watching everything and learning and trying to implement whatever you want to do into your shit. I ain't going to go out there and do no fucking moonsault, but I will go out there and fist fight you, and I take things that I like watching and make them my own thing.
What was different for you? Because did you grow up in an area where independent wrestling was kind of at least semi-popular and prevalent?
Not really. Like what was around me was more of like I would get IWA DVDs, but I couldn't, you know, back then I couldn't get no, you know, hey, we're going to drive down to this show. Indie wrestling wasn't as, it was huge at that point, but not with mainstream, you know, your buddies that watch Raw or something. They don't want to go see that. They want to watch The Rock against Booker T or something. They don't give a shit. So like for me, it was a lot of just VHS, DVDs. We'd have little like shit show, indie shows come to town sometimes. And then I remember one time Buff Bagwell came to a show, and he was so stoned out of his mind, he was like passing out in a plate of barbecue. So with shit like that, where you see that and go, man, pro wrestling ain't like nothing else. So, you know, if you're going to get into this, you're going to see some shit and you're going to learn some shit. So
you had at least been to some independent shows before you got into wrestling. And maybe that's the difference with a lot of like younger guys that come into wrestling, is they initially find out because they're watching television, and then they don't know or think to look, hey, I'm going to go watch some wrestling in my area. But
I'll tell you what, you don't see too many of those Buff Bagwell passing out in barbecue sauces incidents anymore these days.
I wish we could see that weekly. That'd be fucking amazing.
Those were the glory days of the mid 2000s, early 2000s of those kind of former stars. Just they were still hitting it pretty hard. There was multiple Buff Bagwell stories that happened throughout the Cleveland area over the years, which he was legendary for. I don't know what he was doing, but he was doing a lot.
So, all right, so you're a couple of years in. This is back. We get Mance Warner in the black-yellow singlet, knee pad up, knee pad down.
Oh, baby Mancer.
Oh, baby Mancer. Are you wearing the jacket and the bandana?
What's the story on the jacket? Where's the jacket come from? Because I've seen some fans. Some fans have gotten the jacket for themselves.
Yeah, I saw that in the crowd, and then I was like, God damn it, that means I can't get one now. If you buy them all up, there ain't going to be none left out there. But it kind of goes back to that. If you watch everything in wrestling, you kind of take everything that you enjoy about it and then make it your own. Mm-hmm. So, you know, for me, it's like, I can't be coming out with just a regular black satin jacket. You know, I've done that one time before. I used to have a black satin jacket with my School of Rock little logo on there for where I trained at. And then I started looking at it, and I was like, man, old Mancer ain't going to walk out in just a black jacket, man. I got to get something with some damn dragons on it, some tigers and shit. So then I found those on the internet. And when people ask me, I always say I get them from a guy out in Japan makes them for me, David Lopan. And then if they
Big Trouble in Little China.
If they get the joke, they get the joke. Sometimes people will come back and say, man, I looked for that guy and I couldn't find him anywhere.
That's funny. So you mentioned School of Rock. Do you think that, because as a promoter, School of Rock was something that stood out to a lot of promoters because they were producing almost like a weekly show on YouTube with matches. Do you think that kind of helped establish you kind of ahead of probably what your level was at the time?
I think it got me real ready for, because you're getting the reps in, you're getting used to stuff. You're having to think outside the box and then figure out, you know, what you want to do. And because when I first started, I was going out there being like, I'm going to be a grapple fuck guy. I'm going to roll around and do technical wrestling. So, you know, that shit people don't want to go see old Mancer do technical wrestling. They want to see me go out there and beat the hell out of people. So, I mean, shit like that changes to where you go in thinking one thing, and then in a little bit it kind of clicks and you go, okay, well, I can do technical wrestling, but there's only one Daniel Bryan. Ain't no one going to want to see a guy kind of try to do Daniel Bryan shit. So then you kind of, you know, okay, well, I love Terry Funk. I love, you know, Buzz Sawyer matches, Bruiser Brody. shit like that. So then you kind of mix that into what you want to do. And then what you want to do is what you do anyways. If I go to a bar and get in a fist fight, it's going to be the same thing I do in a wrestling, a fight out there. So
when do you think that changed for you?
I'd say going to IWA, because you always have an idea of what you're going to do or what you would like to do. And then you get out in the crowd and then you go, okay, well, this is clicking or that ain't clicking. And then you kind of change on the fly. I think a lot of guys don't do that now. A lot of guys go out there and say, well, I'm going to hit this move and this move and this flip and that flip. But if the crowd don't give a fuck, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that don't know how to adapt, to the crowd. And I think that's pretty interesting, though, that you had a totally different idea. And just from, owning a wrestling school, I see that every day. Dr. Dan thought he's going to be AJ Styles. That's always a famous story that I tell. He and that's, if you look at his first gear, it was all AJ Styles'd up, long tights, and he might have had some gloves, too. I don't know. But it's funny that so many guys have such, this idea of what they think they're going to be, and they end up morphing into something they never expected, and it's 9 times out of 10, it's usually way better than whatever they had in mind. And I think you're a perfect example of that. Do you credit, being able to wrestle so often on those IWA shows? Well, how did you even get booked? Just did Billy Rock set something up, or
no? Well, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I was just curious because that's you were kind of one of those guys, which the School of Rock had tons of talent come out of it, but like you and Heidi Lovelace were really the ones that really started trying to break out. And I couldn't tell you who the rest of the School of Rock trainees were at this point, at this day and age or whatever you want to say, but what I remember is you started showing up on a lot of IWA Midsouth shows, and you were showing up, and this isn't the glory days of IWA Midsouth by any means, but you were kind of, I think they were even running weekly, but you were always on those shows. How do you get involved with IWA Midsouth, and do you credit getting those reps in with, you weren't getting a lot of vets running through there at the time, but there were still some. Do you think that helped kind of mold you as well?
Oh, yeah, because for me, when Billy trained us, he always told us, I will show you how to do certain things. I will, if you are willing to listen and learn, I will show you all this stuff. But he always said, I'm not going to get you bookings. I'm not going to do all this stuff. You got to figure that out on your own, which is cool because, you got to kind of get out there and make it. It's on you. It ain't on anyone else.
Sink or swim.
Exactly. So for me, I started doing just a lot of random shows, and then Nick Manoa had seen me, and he had hit me up and told me that, because for me, I thought I'm going to have to wait to do like an IWA tryout or something. And then Manoa hit me up and he said, hey, I already talked to Ian, get out here and do a show. So then I came out there and had my first match out there, and I just went every week. And I went every single week for I think 2.5 years.
Yeah, because I remember, even though IWA Mid-South wasn't what it was at one time, you would still see results and different things pop up, and things popping up on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And then, every now and then there would be something that would be, talked about in a positive fashion, and a lot of that conversation started to be about you.
Yeah, it'd be like, and the locker room too has been amazing out there, because like I said, I grew up watching the locker rooms change throughout the years and seeing all the people that are out there. King of the Death matches, TPI, and you see all the people come in and out. And then when I was starting there, you had Mitch Ryder, you had Mitch Page, Tracy Smothers was there all the time. It was just like, you had Elgin coming in, you had the Chris brothers, you had, Aaron Williams is real fucking good. He's out there every week. You had all these guys that you can get in the ring with and you're learning with. And, Too Tough Tony, me and him had a match out there that was like my 15th match I ever had or something like that. And, I remember me and Elgin, and Ian's the king of not telling you shit before it happens. So you show up and then, Ian's like, oh, it's going to be you and Elgin. And then I walk in and he goes, oh, you're going Broadway.
Wow.
And then I look at him, what are we doing? And he said, yeah, you guys are going an hour tonight, so go out there. And me and Elgin didn't call shit. We just went out and worked an hour, and then just, so that's that's one of my go-tos whenever someone says, you're a garbage wrestler. I always go, well, go watch me at Elgin. And then people shut the fuck up real quick.
Well, I think that's a big misconception from a fan standpoint, because it's every wrestler knows how to do every basic wrestling maneuver for the most part, but that ain't going to be what gets you over. Like you said, there's only one Daniel Bryan, and that works for Daniel Bryan, but that's not going to work for Mance Warner. And I think, you've really started to, as you found yourself, even, beyond those years, like 2018, 2019, I think, 2019 is when you really hit your stride and you really figured it all out and put all the pieces together. And a lot of things changed for you. And one thing that I think was, it sounds crazy, but one thing that I think was a missing piece of the puzzle was the entrance, and now you have one of those iconic independent wrestling entrances. How do you wind up with that song? Like what goes into that? Because every wrestler thinks that, thinks about their entrance music. There's some guys that want to change their music every 2.5 shows. How do you come to this conclusion?
Well, for that, Ian Rotten, man, it was an Ian Rotten pick. There was I showed up one week, and I think I was using Saturday Night Special, a Leonard Skinner song, and it was one of those weekly shows out there at the IWA Arena, and I'm waiting at the curtain, and then the music hits, and it's Simple Man, and I turned and looked over at Ian. I was like, "What is this?" And he said, "That's your new theme song." And he said, "Don't go out till this long." And I said, "All right." And then did that a couple weeks, and then it was just catching on. And then every place I went, it was that thing of like, okay, I get it. I got what he was saying. A lot of people want to shit on Ian, but he fucking knows his shit, man. And there was this thing where it was like, you do something enough, it's gonna catch on. And especially that's a song where there's been so many people that come up and tell me like, this song means something to me for this reason. And then there's so many of those stories that it's like, it's become like a thing. People pull out lighters, they take their phone out, everybody's singing it. I get fucking hyped up. I can run through a wall, so it's cool shit.
Yeah, I think obviously Ian Rotten was kind of his own worst enemy, but I don't think there's any denying that, he knows his shit, and he was successful for a long time, and he innovated a lot of modern independent wrestling and what is seen today. I think, just the bad stories outweigh the good stories on him, unfortunately. But there's no denying the impact he had on independent wrestling, and guys that have gone on to be gigantic success stories. I think you are probably the most recent success story, so to speak. When do you start trying to branch out? Because it's like Billy Rock says he's not going to help you get bookings. You're working weekly at IWA Midsouth, but you're still really not going anywhere besides IWA Midsouth. What changes there in your head? Like, what's the first move for you?
Well, for me, I always tell guys too, it's pro wrestling. Fans will watch stuff and they listen to podcasts and they see videos and stuff, but I don't think they understand how there's so many goddamn sharks in the water. So when you're out there and you're trying to make it, you literally have to watch your back the whole time and figure out what route you want to take and where you want to go. And it's networking, so you'll meet people from other places. So, I meet Dom, and me and him are, bullshitting about stuff. And he's, I could tell he ain't trying to fuck me over. I ain't trying to fuck him over. And we start, talking about, well, hey, man, if you want to do this, you need to go this route. Or if, hey, man, you want to do this. And it's a network system of people who are all trying to do the same thing. And you can tell who's a piece of shit and who ain't.
Right.
And then you've got to just kind of, dip your toes into it and get out there and kind of make that path. So for me, I started just getting in my truck and going to wherever I can go. You start meeting people, you start getting your name out there, and then figuring out, okay, this is my goal. I want to go here and I want to go here. And then you just figure out your own way to get there. And you can't listen to everybody, because some people are going to come up and tell you one thing and then walk down, and then shit talk you to someone else to try to get that spot taken away or whatever it may be.
That's funny that you said that, because I actually had that conversation with PB Smooth before. I said, listen, man, like, you can't take everybody's advice. Like, you try to take everybody's advice and apply that, and that is kind of why you've kind of started treading water, because you're taking everybody's advice and you're not making any advancement, because everybody's advice it's all an opinion, and it's a contradiction of, the person that told you something three times ago, now this guy's going to tell you something completely different, and you can't apply it all. And I think that is something that independent, especially new independent wrestlers, struggle with, because, like you said, it is a networking thing, and there is somewhat of a detriment to if you ask the wrong person for advice, because if you ask that person for advice and they give you the bad advice, and then they see you in 3 months and you're not applying that advice, now you've offended them, and now you've made somewhat of an enemy. So it's kind of a fine line, when you are trying to, like you said, it's full of sharks and things like that. It's a fine line when you're trying to kind of maneuver through those waters, because, some people will also get offended. Did you ever encounter stuff like that?
Oh, man, I've been told, don't do knee pad up, knee pad down. Don't do that spot. It's stupid. It don't make no sense. Don't. The entrance is too long. Don't do eye pokes. Everything that has gotten over, I've been told don't do. So it's that thing of like you literally have to take advice and be respectful for everyone, because just in general, you got to, I like to live pro wrestling the same way I do life. So, don't be a dickhead to nobody, but you got to know some people are just trying to fuck you over anyways. So pretty much anything that I do that's gotten over, I've been told don't do it. So then you just got to, when you see those people again, it is what it is. Either they're going to say something and then you just go, hey, well, listen to them, man. They seem to be into it. Or you just kind of, they just don't bring it up.
And, I know we're kind of jumping around, but this was a thing that was going on Twitter a little bit ago, is the D'Lo Brown night. He was critical of just about everybody, but he was also being critical in a very respectful way, and everyone was trying to be very respectful back. And it was an interesting debate, because even him and I got into a debate over the Justice and Bishop bump, and I said, listen, I understand where you're coming from, but these guys also weren't getting that many bookings until that happened, and now they're booked every weekend. So it's easy for, I think it's easy for the guys that have made money to say certain things, but if you're that guy that is coming up through the gutters of independent wrestling and you haven't made any real money, it's two just totally different mindsets, and you're not gonna please some of those people. But that D'Lo Brown night I thought was funny, because he literally sat there with the remote control and would pause things and give all you guys at the bar feedback. And it was so interesting to just watch and see the debates, and the different kind of points of view, just all being shared over some drinks and good company. And I think those are the great parts about independent wrestling and the veteran advice, because even though D'Lo Brown didn't agree with most of what was he was seeing, he also said, well, the crowd was into it, so you guys gotta go for it. And I just think that was a very good example of you especially were just right there. There was plenty of other guys that were not saying one fucking word to D'Lo Brown, but you were right there with them and talking to him. Is that just something that you started doing on your own, like just talking to the veterans, or did somebody say like, hey, some of these guys you should reach out and strike up a conversation?
For me, I was such a goddamn wrestling nerd that as soon as I ever got an opportunity to be around anyone that's ever made money in this business, I'd always just pull up a chair. And then, I could tell if I'm getting on their fucking nerves, I'd leave them alone. But, that's the way that you learn stuff. So, like I would do it to Tracy Smothers every week. I would just sit there. It's like sitting underneath a learning tree. And he would just tell you stuff and teach you stuff and say, like, those dudes have forgot more shit about wrestling than I fucking know about wrestling, so they're telling us stuff and we're just sitting there learning all these things. To this day, Tracy Smothers told me that if I ever got to take a piss, I could piss in any trash can and it's okay because Tracy said so. I implement that in any locker room sometimes. You go ahead.
Well, when you're assigning value to what people are telling you, is it because you as an individual have a decent grasp of those things, or is it that you've been able to talk to multiple people and now you understand what is good direction and advice and what isn't, in terms of weeding that stuff out?
Yeah, it's just like trial and error. Like you could tell sometimes guys come up and they'll tell you something, and just by the way they're acting, their demeanor, that they're just being dickheads and they're just trying to like beat you down.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, they're trying to beat you down, and so they could punk you out, kind of.
Yeah, and some of those guys that have made money and now are back, or for the first time on the independent level, you know, they are kind of, I don't know, like it's almost like they are so down on themselves they want to bring others down with them, you know, and they're just there have been plenty of guys over the years that I've encountered, and it's just like, you know, like, if you don't want to be here, like, why'd you take the booking? But they need the money, you know, but then they feel so just like independent wrestling is so below them, so then they try to take down all the guys that are there working hard too, you know, and it's just like, it's such kind of like a toxic thing. And, you know, you do have to learn who to assign that value to. And Tracy Smothers, I think, has never not given advice. You know, he's been wrestling for 40 years, and that guy just can't not give people good advice. You know, I've never seen a guy that cares so much about, you know, you could be somebody that has only had one match and he will pull you aside and give you advice. And, you know, that's probably the benefit of, you know, you wrestling on those shows in that Indiana area and Tracy Smothers being around, you know, because he was in Cleveland a lot too. And I've seen Tracy he will take so much time with people, and it's really incredible because there aren't a lot of guys like him that will do that.
Yeah. Speaking of Tracy Smothers and people that are going to just talk and give you advice whether you ask for it or not, another guy that sat under the Tracy Smothers learning tree a little bit, you were teamed up with in AIW, and Jock Sampson. Is that a guy? Was that beneficial? Do you feel like being with him, because he's kind of traveled at spots? He's been at this for a while, and Jock is one of those guys that loves to listen to the crowd in terms of what he's doing.
Oh yeah, I remember the singles match that me and him had. And we went out there, and then after the match, Thorne was in the back there, and Thorne goes, "God damn it, guys, y'all went like 25 minutes. We were supposed to go like 7 minutes, I think, and then we go out there and
you guys didn't even get in the ring until like 17 minutes in.
Yeah, we were cutting promos the whole time, and then finally, and we're like talking about the Catholic school and the tiger on the wall and baby Jesus and all this stuff. We're doing all this shit, and then we finally get to the match. The match was only like 6 minutes long, but everything else was just. It was like a Tracy Smothers match. We just talked, and then finally did our shit. But yeah,
I don't know if Jock Sampson would make it in the new headset era of AIW with the time cues.
Yeah,
he just keep looking at the ref, going, "No, we got this.
He is like somebody that has just. It's like somebody dug him up out of a time capsule. You know, like I can't even believe he's a real person sometimes. But you know, you do find your way into AIW, and you know, just I'm curious as to, you know, like you must have had a list or whatever of places you want to go. How does AIW wind up on that list?
For me, it was always AIW, AAW, Combat Zone, IWA Midsouth, and then because in that time period where I'm watching everything, those are the places where I'm going. Okay, because I look at independent pro wrestling as not just like, how do I put it? You know how, let's say some band puts out a CD and they run on that CD for like 7 years, and that's all they do is this one CD.
Yeah.
I look at it like, okay, well, I'm going to do this for 2 years, and I'm going to do this for 2 years, and I'm going to do this for 2 years, but these are my home companies. So everything around that, my catalog is going to be all this shit over here, and then these are my places I call home. So, you know, it's one of those things where I just kind of come up with, these are all the places I want to go to. And then, you know, I went to Combat Zone and people were shitting all over me for going there. And I understand it, I get it, but that was a place that I grew up being like, man, I got to go to Combat Zone. And then I won the fucking title. What's left to do there? You know? So I'm sitting there like, all right, well.
I think,
you know.
I really think that, you know, that was, you know, Combat Zone is Combat Zone, and what it's evolved into now with its, I don't know, the Bodacious Babes pay-per-views or whatever they call it.
Don't get me started on that. Jesus Christ.
But I think that, you know, the last kind of thread for CZW was the guys like you who just grew up watching it and wanted to wrestle there. And I think, you know, I don't know how many of those guys are left at this point anymore, but I think that was kind of the last thread for them. But I guess my question is how do you determine these are the companies that I want to make home. Like what goes into that? Because there's thousands of wrestling companies.
For me, it's the locker room. It's you go to a place and then you got everybody there. You could tell from the get go when you walk into a place if it's a family or if it's just a bunch of people that are going to piss on each other when no one's around
and make money.
Yeah. So for me, it's I look forward when I look at my calendar and I go, okay, we're going to Cleveland, or GCW, here we go. AAW. When I look at those places, I go, here, this is my fucking boys out here. So that plays a large part into how the crowds are, and the crowds are into it, and it's a family. It's not just the locker room and management, and it's everything. When we go to the after party at all those companies that I named, here's my cat jumping in here. It's that's the thing of it's a goddamn family at the end of the day. So we're going to get more, they're going to get more. Everybody's into it. It's that good shit.
Yeah, and I think I really think that when AIW really started, from just a promoter standpoint, when we really started making an effort, like we're going to do an after party every single show, no matter what. I think that helped grow the bond amongst the boys so much and that started before you kind of came into the picture. But now you kind of see the product of that. Like, I think that has bonded so many people. It has gotten so many people just over, you know what I mean? Like CPA, like CPA is right. Like it has gotten, and like, if you, my thing is if you can get over with the boys in the locker room, like that's way harder to do than get over with the crowd is, from my perspective, because you kind of have to be accepted into the gang, so to speak. And there are people that have not been accepted, and they weren't around that long. But like, so I'm saying before you got booked though, like, how do you determine, young Mance Warner, how do you determine this is where I want to go? Like, what led into that? You said you would research a lot of things. You just started. Did you have like a map drawn out, or like this?
I did. I had like a notebook. I still got it in there. Helen, quit messing with everything up here. Damn it, get out there.
Was it geographically based, or
no,
was it based
really,
on DVDs?
Not really a map, I guess. More of like I just got a notebook and I would write down these are the companies that I want to go to.
Is it because of DVDs that you watched?
Yeah, kind of DVDs, and kind of just like you could sit there and you look at the internet or you look at what fans are talking about, and
okay,
you could tell by the way a fan writes about a company that they're fully with it, versus a fan that's just writing about a company. Hey, I went to a wrestling show, versus a fan that's like, this is the fucking place. You know what I mean? So when you see that, okay, if these fans are this invested into these places, that's the place that I want to be because I love this shit. So if they're that into it, I'm going to fucking be into it. See, because we were all fans at some point. So we'd all sit there. If anyone ever talked about shitting on WCW or ECW around me, it's fucking all. So when a fan's saying that about these companies, like, okay, this is a place that I want to go to and make this the place that I'm going to be at, where when people go, I want to see old Mancer, they know these are the companies to go to.
Were you paying attention to AIW before you had even met Dom?
Yes, because going to School of Rock out there, when I was starting to go there, Heidi Lovelace she'd already been
sure,
trained.
yeah.
She was there, but she wouldn't be there every time we would be training or something. But Dory would come in there and she'd be there on the weekend, and when we'd be doing Saturday, Sunday, or whatever day it may be on training. So it's like you're hearing. And I'd fucking get on everybody's nerves because I'd always be asking questions about everything, or jumping in cars, or Trip Cassidy, I'm going to go to New Jersey with you. I'll just drive the whole time. You can do whatever. I don't care. I'm just going to go. And then I remember one time I drove to a ECWA when they did their tournament. It wasn't even their tournament. It was
Super 8 tournament.
2 shows before that. Yeah, it was like 2 shows before that, and I knew it was coming up, and I just wanted to go there and see it because it's a place that I would watch.
Right.
And then you go there and well, this ain't, the same place it was.
This ain't what it was in 96.
Yeah, but it's still, it's cool to go and see all them places, man.
Yeah, I think that, that is kind of a lost art that, whenever indie wrestling opens back up, guys need to just adapt that lifestyle again and that road warrior mentality. And, one guy that, I see you've gotten in his ear is Levi Everett. Where do you find this fucking guy? Because it seems like you guys are attached at the hip. I don't, I don't know where this fucking guy comes from, but wherever Mance Warner is, this guy is there. And before I even knew he was a worker, I was just like, I was rewatching an AIW show, and I was like, "Who's this fucking Amish guy in the crowd?" He was just there. Where do you find this guy?
Yeah, he's out there. He was doing shows at WCWO out there in Indianapolis, and it's just like it's just like a little local place they run down there downtown in Indy, and he was just out there doing shows and shit. And I went out to a WCWO show, and he was out there, and I met him, and I was like, man, this dude, he's fucking nuts. Like, he was out there getting hit in the head with chairs and doing, the Benoit shit off the top. And just, he was nuts. Like, you could see when someone's getting ready to go out to the ring, they go up to the curtain. And you could tell when they really, really love pro wrestling because shit starts to change. They start acting different. They start pacing around. Their eyeballs kind of glaze over. They look like a crazy person. So when I saw him do that, I was like, he's with me. Because that dude's nuts. I know it. And then, I had a match with him at Bizarro Lucha. It's on IWTV. And we just beat the hell out of each other. At one point, he throws a chair, hits me in the head. And I fire up. I throw a chair, hit him in the head. And the crowd goes ballistic because they ain't, they're realizing that this dude's fucking nuts. And I always put him over to everyone. Me and him, that same match, I got on the mic and I said, Joey Janela, I'm not ever one to kiss ass or ask for no damn favors, but put Levi in the goddamn clusterfuck, man. He's going to get over like a sumbitch and be booked everywhere.
Yeah, he's he is definitely one of those, before this, COVID stuff happened, Levi Everett was one of those guys that was definitely moving his way up the depth chart in my brain. He's a guy that was doing it right. He was coming, helping, he did the tryout, but even before then, I can't think of a show in recent memory that he wasn't there, setting the ring up, helping guys out, offering to do something. And, and this isn't an open invitation for you guys to go everywhere, whoever's listening to this, but for me, you can send me all the YouTube links in the world. I ain't going to watch them. But if, Mance Warner or somebody says, hey, this guy is good, and you are actually physically standing next to that person, that is going to be a much better route for you to get booked places, because I ain't going to watch these fucking copy and paste emails that I get with 3 links. It's just, Levi Everett is a perfect example of that. He's had several guys vouch for him, and when they're doing it, I can look and go, oh, he's here. Let me throw him in a dark match or do something else. Here comes my cat now getting involved in everything.
They gotta get over, man. They want to be able to scream.
What, Mancer, let me ask you this. You came in at such an interesting time in AIW history where the Johnny Garganos are gone. The EC3s we're gone again. A lot of people gone. Ethan Page isn't coming around quite as much anymore because he's doing television. And it's like 2017, a little bit, but 2018, 2019, to me, is such an evolutionary period in AIW. And it is for you too. What does that mean when this is one of the places on your little map, and here you are evolving with it to basically become one of the faces that people make synonymous with AIW?
I always look at it like, you remember WWF went through that weird change in the middle where it was like 93 to 96.
The new generation.
Yeah,
the new generation, right?
Yeah.
Where, you got all these guys coming in, and then it's like, all right, motherfuckers, go make it. Who's going to, Adam Palm, maybe they're pushing him, but that motherfucker didn't make it, Someone else got in that spot. So I look at indie wrestling kind of like that now. So for me, when I look at my home companies, because people always go, what's your home base? And then I name a couple. And then they go, what's your one? I go, fuck that. These are my places. These are the companies that, as long as I'm in independent pro wrestling, let's say I wrestle for the next 25 fucking years, and I come and go, and pull a Terry Funk, and I go to all these companies, but I leave, and then my horse is sick. I'm going home, baby. And then I go back and forth. I want everyone to know, like, oh, that's where Mance Warner's at. That's it. That's, you got to go see this. Or what companies are we going to get? This one right here. They want to watch this one, and this is my crew of guys, and we're all out here and we're busting our ass, guys and girls and whoever else is fucking out there. That's that's our place. So for me, it's kind of, you want to make your name, but you want to make your company the spotlight there, where it's like, this place may say they're the fucking best, but fuck you, we're the fucking best. And then everyone starts competing, and that's great for everybody because we're all busting ass.
Fuck you, we're right. Fuck you, they're wrong, right? Beyond the mat, baby. I think it's interesting though with you specifically is, like we're joking about the new generation. So many of these talented guys came out of our school, and you did not come out of our school, but you kind of came in right next to them, and you guys all kind of rose through the ranks together. And I really accredit a lot of your success to when we would add these, these kind of, they're not B shows, but they're the extra shows, the bar shows, to where it's like, well, we don't need to bring in, Nick Gage and all these other guys that are on top. We can bring in like a couple of them, and then let's give Mance Warner a singles match. Let's give Dom Greeny a singles match. Let's do something with Trey Lamar. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been your first match in AIW, was at one of those Music Link shows.
It was either Dom or
me and
Josh.
Bishop was the first
Bishop,
one.
that's what.
Yeah, you and Bishop.
The second one was me and Dom.
Second one was Dom.
And I really think that was a good kind of, I don't know, I don't even know what the word is, just like an opportunity to showcase you, and also open my eyes, because I didn't know what you were capable of, and neither did the fans. You were just the guy that you had told me this is where you wanted to be. You were like we said at the beginning of the podcast, you were getting booked elsewhere in Cleveland, and you had heard that I like only using my own unique roster in the same city. So without ever even talking to me, you just canceled all those bookings, and you just started showing up to set the ring up. And I was like, wow, that is a pretty serious kind of move, because and I believe I even told you, like, don't cancel all those bookings. I can't promise that I'm going to book you, and you did it anyway. And so I was like, wow, you almost kind of forced my hand, honestly, because it's just like I felt bad. You canceled all this work, and you were just showing up for no money, and you were setting chairs up. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to throw this guy a bone. I had heard of you, I had seen things about you, but I never sat down and did an extensive Mance Warner tape study. But I think those bar shows that we added, and you got out there with Bishop, and especially the one where you and Dom went out there. I think that really kind of raised your profile. Did you find that to be beneficial?
Oh yeah, because I look at it like on the old like ECW fan cam tapes. Remember, they'd have like 2 dark matches. And then sometimes you see somebody and then you go, oh shit, who's this guy? And then next time he's booked Chris Hamrick against somebody. Money against somebody. And then the next time they're booked on every shit like that. So I always look at it and go, okay, here's my chance to show this crowd. Because not everyone that goes to the main shows, I don't even like calling them the main shows, just they're going to the bar show, not the whole crowd from the other shows are going to be at this show.
Right.
Yeah. But the diehards are there, so they see it and they go, holy shit, who's this motherfucker?
And I think that, yeah, exactly, the diehards will go, and then you're not gonna get the big Odeon crowd, but you're gonna get the diehards, and you're gonna get some others there. And I think that I think that was really good for you, especially good for the quote unquote new generation altogether. Were those shows?
Oh yeah, it gets us all ready, and then you get to try out shit at the shows, and then you figure it clicks or it don't click, and then you kind of take it to the next one, or so that's the fucking art of it, going out there and just kind of doing what you do.
My trainer Lou Marconi, he was one of those ECW dark match guys. He played the part of Lance Wright's lawyer. He took a couple Taz plexes, and he was supposed to get a big push, but according to him, he was on the cover of a dirt sheet, and Taz thought he was trying to get himself over. So he got fired.
But that's not good, man.
That's my story on the ECW dark matches.
When do you decide to evolve and become, all right, I'm no longer the singlet Mance Warner, I am the good old boy jeans wearing Mance Warner. Is that just because of the style of matches that you started having?
Yeah, it just kind of clicked. I threw on jeans, I think for the first time for Wrestle Rager 2. I think that's the first time I ever wore them.
That's where me and you got out there and worked a little bit.
Yeah.
that beautiful damn picture that I always post. I love that picture. But yeah, I think I wore them in that one because it was just like
it was like a bunkhouse brawl.
Yeah, so I just threw them on, and then I looked at a picture. I said, "Why the fuck have I not been wearing this the whole time? Out there just running around and singlet looking like a jabroni. I need to be wearing my damn jeans from Walmart."
Yeah, I think that's a pro wrestler thing, especially a young pro wrestler thing. Like, you got to have your gear and you got to do this, and but like we've been saying, a lot of your evolution was a lot of that trial and error, and the jeans and the jacket, the David Lopan jacket, and I think that, and the music, I think it quickly turned into the total package that, like we've been saying, like 2018, 2019 especially, like I think you really put it all together. And for wrestlers that listen to this, like, you got to go out and you got to try different shit out. Like Mance Warner could be trying to do hammerlocks right now.
Yeah, I think that
Nobody will give a fuck either.
I think, again, it's interesting how this whole generation, the new generation with AIW, this new era, so to speak, and Mance Warner mirror each other, because the big moment for both, right, is Jersey City. We're part of the collective, and a much broader audience is seeing AIW for the first time because they're a part of this, and Mance Warner has a huge singles match with Nick Gage. Is that one of those moments for you where it's like it clicks that this is a huge part of your evolution?
Oh yeah, man, because going into it, you're just thinking like, okay, it's me and Nick Gage, a dude that I grew up watching all the fucking time on these DVDs, and you're hyped up for the match. But like that whole day was fucking insane for me because I'm doing like MLW tapings 40 minutes away, and then earlier I had another show, so it's like I go from doing the MLW thing, jumping in a taxi with hell, who was in there with us? I think Lawler was in there with us, but we go from a taxi to pull up to the venue. We get out of the taxi. Joey Janela's out front. There's some shit on fire. He's out there trying to put it out. And
I think he started that fire. He denies it.
Oh, I bet he did too. He's crazy. But I go running in, and I can't remember who I found, but I was like, hey, man, where the hell do I go? What time? What? And I think I was the 2 matches away or something like that.
Yeah.
So
It was pretty close, yeah.
Maybe like 20 minutes or 15 minutes. We didn't call shit. We just, there we go. Let's go. See you out there and let's do some shit. Got some weapons out there. So I remember waiting to walk out and just being so fucking hyped up. It's like, it's me and Nick Gage, and then you're waiting, and then you get out there and the crowd's going nuts. And at one point we're just looking around and I'm like, this is our fucking Mania match and we ain't even done shit yet. And the crowd's going ballistic and they're just chanting and chanting and chanting. And I'm like, this is fucking dope, man. This is good shit.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do it again this year, because you did arrive. I think you were in the Ethan Page Colt Cabana car or whatever, all coming from the MLW area or MLW taping, and I think that that match was awesome with 15 minutes planning. So yeah. I wanted to give for you, I wanted to give you the real because we've done that match in AIW since, but and it's been awesome, and I wanted it on that stage to give it the, okay, these guys are here, and like know what to do now, because I don't think that you had wrestled Nick Gage before then. Maybe
no, I did a triple threat with him one time, but Teddy Hart was in there, so
yeah. So I thought that was that's one of the things that bummed me out about all this shit getting canceled, because I was going to do that match again, but I wanted the broader audience to be able to experience it with, not 15 minutes of rushed, getting out there.
Speaking of big moments and like big fight feels and big matches, I think to me, as we again talk about 2019 being your year, there were so many moments for you, Mance. I mean, that Absolution build with you and Jock, people loved. You and Eddie had a match that I thought was great during, I think, the rap show last year was in April, but or May maybe. But J-Lit.
Oh, it was me and Eddie.
Is that what it was? Okay, but J-Lit weekend. I remember being in the ring during the finals, and it's Justice, it's Gage, and it's you in that final matchup, that triple threat. And I just look at Tom Dunn, who's refereeing, and you already feel the crowd. I don't know if you felt it backstage, but certainly standing in the ring before anybody's music even hit, we felt that anticipation. And I just looked at Tom Dunn. I was like, is this the closest you've ever felt to like the biggest fight or biggest, big match feel that you've ever had? And he was like, this is unbelievable right now. They were already ready for you guys. But I don't know. That's just my perspective. I would love to have yours in terms of coming out right then.
Oh, man. It made me think of watching, like, Sting versus Hogan at Starrcade. Where, like, the crowd's going nuts and they ain't done shit. And there's this, and so we get in the ring and we're all looking at each other and you could feel the crowd. Like, you could feel the room moving. And it's that cool thing of, like, okay, shit. Like, they're in already and we've not done anything yet. And it's a moment. And that's what I always tell guys, too, is, like, I'm not here to do the greatest, wrestling hold or the spot or the fucking duck, leap, move, bop, 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 duck, duck, duck. None of that bullshit. I want to do moments to where people watch it and go, that was the fucking coolest shit I saw all night. And that was one of those moments where it's like the crowd's with it, everybody's with it. And then when people left, the first thing they're tweeting about is that shit right there was a moment.
You guys had the all these guys chant going before the match had even started.
Yeah, and I think, I think that is a thing that's lost that I try to specifically do is I try to book almost moments. And sometimes I think that that's kind of to AIW's detriment, so to speak, because sometimes it does take a while to build to that moment, and that's not the... Your cat?
Yeah, my cat threw a mouse in the air and speared it onto a box. She's just hitting like table spots in here.
What that's crazy. Helen's going wild.
Yeah, Helen's going wild.
I do think to our detriment sometimes is we take the time to build to those moments. However, like when we get the moment, the payoff is typically unreal. And my thought process going into that J-Lit that year is, we usually book storylines throughout it, and there's more things that will build to Absolution, and there's a lot of storyline stuff that's taken into consideration. But my thought process last year was, I'm just going to take the three most over guys and I'm going to put them in the main event, and because I thought that there would be a moment, and even what I thought did not even, the actual thing blew away my expectations. Like, I didn't think that they would be that with it. And that was, that's one of the more, like, one of my more proud moments as a promoter, booker, whatever you want to call it, was just like, before that match even happened, I knew that we had accomplished our goal for the weekend. Like, that reaction right there made the whole weekend a success.
And I think it was many things coming together that made that such a perfect storm. It's those three guys being the most over, and there's just something about that Odeon atmosphere. And at that point, we're finally in there. That's like maybe our fifth show in the Odeon, and officially it's our home. And over that weekend, it becomes the AIW Arena. And now here is the main event of what is now officially the AIW Arena. And there couldn't have been a more special one for that, to put that whole atmosphere together like that.
It's like the ECW Arena, man. It's like that.
Yeah.
The crowd, the people are lining up, hours before the show. They're waiting outside sometimes in the damn rain, and they're all hyped up. When we're walking up to the front, they're all out there taking pictures, and they're getting us hyped up before we even put our damn cowboy boots on to do anything.
Fans get there before I get there. It's crazy. Like there'll be a line before I arrive, and it's like that blows my mind. And speaking of a great fan experience, let's talk about the Wrestle Rager experience. Like, I think that is a defining experience as an AIW talent and as an AIW fan. What are your thoughts on the whole Wrestle Rager thing?
Oh man, it's one of my favorite things every year. I look forward to it 'cause it's the closest thing you could get to like a real life blood sport.
Yeah, it's almost like a Fight Club atmosphere, like a feel.
You're outside. People have been drinking all day. they're smoking stuff, they're partying. You can smell it in the air. It's insane. And then, you're waiting out there and you can hear everything. Because sometimes in an arena or a venue, you're waiting out back, you can't really hear everything.
Right.
But when you're outside and you're literally, you can look.
There's just a U-Haul truck between you and the people.
And you're just out there drinking and you look and you're just going like this. I remember at the last one, I started pacing around right before I went out and I started yelling like I would do this shit for free, and I'm like going ballistic. And then later on, someone sent me a thing of Nick Gage doing an interview, and he was talking about how he was, we all got shitty days sometimes, and Nicky was having one of those, and he was saying that he heard me doing that, and it just fucking hyped him up, man, and he was ready to go. And I'm just out there acting like a madman, And then Thorne walked by, and Thorne said, "I'll remember that." And I said, "No."
I did hear that. I was like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "I'll remember that one, man." Let me go check the gate real quick. Yeah, but you were screaming. You're like, "I would do this shit for free," because it was like Wrestle Rager is so weird because especially last year, you just look to your left and like Raven and Fonzie are just having a chat, catching up, and like. People are on their garages and roofs as far as you could see, and
Nick Gage is putting kids on a dumpster.
Yeah, Nick Gage is putting kids on dumpsters, and it's just it is a wild experience. And like I'll never forget when we did our match, that crazy main event a couple of years ago. I'll never forget. I was so nervous, and like it was so I didn't decide to do it until like the day before. And you guys had all put it together before I even, got back there. And, we're going through the motions or whatever. And you and I come to do a spot. And, like, everyone's kind of being, like, a little, like, everyone's being, like, taking care of me. I'm the promoter or whatever. You hit me so fucking hard. And I was like, all right, I respect that. I was like, because having wrestled other deathmatch guys, throughout the years, it's like a rite of passage. Like you hit that guy as hard as you can, and then you see what happens. And it gave me, I swear to God, it gave me flashbacks to the first time I wrestled Drake Younger, and he hit me so hard, and I had not been hit that hard again since that match than with you. And I respect that.
Oh man, I loved it. That match was insane because it was like a 30-minute match.
Yeah, it's crazy how long it is. It's so crazy. Like we did an alternate commentary on it. I was like, holy shit, this match is a half hour.
It's on YouTube, right? With the alternate commentary.
Yeah.
And it's just chaos. So there's just like staple guns and light tubes, and at one point I think Worldwide gives me like a side slam onto like a barbed wire chair that Caden
made. Chair,
yeah. Jesus Christ, it was. And then we all went out partying after that, and we looked like we just went through fucking Vietnam War or something.
I know. Like no shower, no showers at Now That's Class. You just do a little blood wipe, and it's into the bar.
Just moseyed on over to Funhouse.
I remember watching that one, and Thorne was like, "This is where Mance really picked up working the hard cam."
You were all over that hard cam.
Staple to his tongue. Mance running around the ring, finds the hard cam, gets on his knees. That face was great. As we sit there talking about venues, I'm thinking about like, Mance, you've been a lot of you've been with AIW during the venue search. Are there and on the different atmospheres? Is there a favorite atmosphere that you've had so far?
I'd say
aside from Wrestle Rager.
I'd say the one we're at now.
Yeah,
because it reminds me so much of how it's kind of dark. And the crowd goes ballistic. It's in a bar. People are just getting drinks. They're going wild. I think every wrestling show should have beverages because if people can't get drunk, they're quiet.
Yeah, it helps with the atmosphere. It helps with the atmosphere so much. I think it turns it in from wrestling to an experience. I feel.
Yes.
And it's like. Some people that come to AIW, they're not even wrestling fans. They go because they want to get drunk and they want to see whatever's going to happen. And they don't give a fuck about the WWE or, Ring of Honor or any other wrestling company. They just come because they want to have that experience. And I think that it helps you guys, too, the performers, because it makes them loud and it makes them kind of leave those inhibitions to the side. And, it creates just such an amazing atmosphere. Like, I was hesitant about going to the Odeon, you got to think, like, there's no free parking down there and all this other shit. But I mean, it's so worth the $5 that people, have to pay to park to be able to get that kind of all in, just the lights, the darkness, the smokiness, the full bar. It's a total experience.
And for me, Mance, I think your intro takes on a life of its own there as opposed to anywhere else because of the lights and everything we're able to do with it and make it feel really special.
I feel like I'm at fucking WrestleMania, man. It's awesome. They got the lights going and there's different colored lights and there's smoke and it's amazing. There's one picture where I'm walking to the ring and it looks like God is behind me and there's like a circle of all-seeing knowledge that's helping me get to the ring or something. I thought that shit was fucking awesome, man. Yeah, it's crazy in there. The crowd's nuts. Everyone's enjoying it. Everyone's having a good time.
Yeah, the way those cell phones light up as you're coming out in there because of the darkness.
You got like the Bray Wyatt entrance, man. Like,
yeah, you really do.
I just got to get Cena to join the NWO out there with me and off to the races.
I mean, as we've been doing this for a while, as we wind it down, how is Mance Warner handling the quarantine, the no wrestling? How's it weighing on you? Everyone's taking it a little differently.
At first, I fucking hated it because you can't do shows, you can't go do fights, you can't, but I'm trying to make it positive. So I'm trying to, I got more time I could talk to fans. I could do, podcasts. I don't want to do every damn podcast there is because everybody out there will hit you up and once you do a podcast, they'll ask the same questions. I like doing podcasts where it's my people that I already know and we're friendly and we can bullshit and drink beers. I know they're not going to try to get you in that gotcha media where they get you to say something to post on the internet.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, just being active and doing promos and talking to people and bullshit and just trying to keep people, into pro wrestling because people can't go to shows. A lot of fans think, well, hell, there ain't nothing to do. For us, if we're doing stuff like this and we're talking to fans and we're doing Q&As and bullshit with people, and like earlier I was Skyping with the boys on here just bullshitting. Maybe we record that and show people. Especially, out here, it's our fan base that could talk to us, and we're all in this shit together. At the end of the day, we're all fucking bored. So the more stuff that we could do and keep active and keep our minds right, it's a win-win for all of us.
That's one thing that I thought that was so just like, wow, like how has nobody else thought of this? You just cut promos on whatever's going on in the world. You just cut wrestling promos, and it's keeping you out there. It's keeping people entertained. It's keeping your relevancy up there, and you're getting that social media interaction, and you're just doing what you always do. Like if there was a show coming up this weekend, but you're just picking, whatever hot topic in the world, or, and I think that's good because nobody knows how long this is going to be. It's probably going to be a while. And, it's also keeping you fresh, like we saw earlier tonight, Steve Guy hasn't done a ring announcement in a while. He's a little rusty, he's got the ring rust.
Yeah, I had the ring rust, man.
So, I think that's interesting.
Games.
I think that's interesting that, you're doing that, and it's so simple, maybe that's why you're the simple man.
It's true, right. Man. I just like drinking beers and bullshitting.
Mancer, as John said, we wind this down. One of the new things that we're doing with AIW is your top 5. So since you're here, and we've talked about this whole thing being an evolution of Mance Warner the last few years, give me if somebody says Mance Warner AIW, what are your top 5 matches / moments?
The first, so I'm not going to give no order. I'll just throw some out.
Yeah, that's fine.
Me and Eddie, because Eddie's like my fucking big brother in pro wrestling. Like I remember IWA, he saw me out there and told me, and I want to work with him. And then ever since then, we've just beat the hell out of each other every match. Just beat the shit out of each other. So me and Eddie at Gauntlet, and then right after that match, I think it was there may have been a match in between, or it may have went right to the Gauntlet. But me and Joey were 1 and 2, and we lasted until we were like 4, I believe.
In between was M-Dog and Josh Prohibition.
So yes. then I'm out there for, I don't know how long we were out there, like a damn hour or something. But yes, that was awesome. Because like I said, that's one of those matches you watch and you go like, okay, if I'm in there, I want to be like number 1 or 2. And then you get to be number 1 or 2, and it's one of your boys, me and Joey out there beating each other up. Me and Gage at the Mania week down there.
Slumber Party, yeah.
Yeah, so then that one, me, Gage, and Justice.
Sure.
And then I'd say Me and Justice, where we went through the two tables. Because we thought that shit was going to break. As soon as we got up there, we stacked them. Oh my God.
What was that? Was that in December?
I think so. It was the singles match. And at one point we do a move to the outside and we broke the feed for a second. And they had to go to another camera angle because we did something where we broke through a door. And then we broke the fucking camera or some shit. We broke.
Yeah, you guys like pulled the cable out of the camera.
But
where was that? Was that at the Odeon?
Yes. At the Odeon.
Yeah. Okay. Oh man, I'm trying to remember one of those tables. Another moment. Speaking of tables not breaking, but it just made me think of it. You and Eric Stevens in Akron.
Oh Lord. Those were
those were the doors.
Those were like what were those? The old FMW ones.
Was that a Dr. Dan purchase?
Yeah, it had to have been a Dr. Dan purchase. I looked at those fucking doors and I said, "Man, those look kind of thick." I said, "Where'd you get these from? Like a trailer from the 70s or something?" And he said, "No, these are fine. We got a whole bunch of them." Right? I found out they were not when I bounced off them two stacked up. Thought I broke my ankle.
You and Justice was at Bobblehead Nights in September, the D'Lo Brown show.
Yeah, because we partied with D'Lo after.
Yeah, and he analyzed your guys' match.
Yeah. And then that was great too because he's telling us shit, and then Gage kept coming over, being like, "Who keeps fucking pausing the fight, man? I'm trying to watch." And I would try to casually be like, "Gage, it's D'Lo," and he couldn't hear me, so he'd come over each time and be like, "What the fuck, man?" "It's D'Lo, man. D'Lo did it." And then,
yeah, he had the remote and he would pause it and then give feedback and then he would play it again. And Nick Gage was just off somewhere else in the bar watching the TV, trying to watch the show and have some drinks, and he was getting hot because he kept pausing the fucking stream.
Love it. I love Nick Gage. Well, an after party story is always a great spot to wind things down and end it, because there's far too many of those, and that would just go on and on and on. But
there's way too many.
Maybe for another time, I guess. How about save them for another man?
That's some Patreon shit right there.
Yeah.
So 40 minutes on stories from after party.
At least.
So this was a great time, Mance. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Hopefully everybody out there has enjoyed this one. For John Thorne, for Mance Warner, my name's Steve Guy. We'll talk to you next week right here on AIW's The Card is Going to Change.